Apparently.
Hey, listen. We gonna get off Pensacola tonight. What is going on?
Brother Marcellus, he's from Florida. You from Jacksonville or Miami?
No, I'm from Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale, okay.
Oh, so you farther south than I am, huh?
Yeah. I'm your neighbor.
All right, so we're live now. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to a special edition of Off the Record. I have some illustrious guests this evening, and we're dealing with a wonderful topic, an informative topic that we would like to dive right into. Walaikum salam, Mimi. Walaikum salam, Sister Mariah, holding it down. Okay. I have Sister Candace, all the way from Pensacola, Florida. Sister Ebony from Detroit. Brother Marcellus from Fort Lauderdale. And everyone say hi. I mean, wave to everybody. You know, y'all can speak to everybody. Peace. Naima.
Hey, family.
Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, boom. Our subject for this evening is how to love yourself in the face of colorism. You know, basically positivity, how to teach yourself how to survive in a positive atmosphere. I mean, be positive in a slick conversation right here, boy, with colorism. But we're gonna get straight into it. All right, Sister Candace, how would you define colorism?
I define colorism as the word that comes to mind is insecurity. That's it in a nutshell for me. Insecurity.
Okay, yes, ma'am. And Sister Ebony, what do you describe colorism as?
For me, colorism is a side effect of white supremacy.
Okay, yes, ma'am. And Brother Marcellus?
I would define colorism as the misunderstanding of the superiority or the inferiority of a skin complexion.
Okay, excellent. All three of you all had excellent responses. Sister Candace, what do you think is the cause of? Okay, before I get to that, Sister Candace, I want to say there's a song that Beyonce has out called "Brown Skin Girls," and it is like a positive, like an upliftment song. Do you think that songs like this can help offset colorism in the day-to-day practice? Sorry, with you, Sister Candace.
I absolutely do because, of course, you know, when I was coming up, you didn't have the term colorism. It was just, you know, children being mean, you know. But I think now we didn't have back then growing up those songs that we enjoyed, that we learned the lyrics to, that we snapped our fingers to. We didn't have those songs that instilled love of self. Maybe, you know, in the 60s before my time, but by the time I was, you know, came along and was growing up, you didn't have that. So I think it's very important, and I think it's awesome that the artists now are taking the responsibility and realizing that they have a responsibility to the audience that listens to them and that look up to them. So they're instilling, you know, values of self-love in young girls and young boys nowadays. I think it's great.
Okay, excellent. And Sister Ebony, what do you think? Do you think that songs like that are important?
Absolutely. And you'll have people who will call that reverse discrimination or reverse colorism in an effort to justify their colorism. You know, it's just like Caucasians who complain about not having white universities versus black universities. I call them light-skinned tears. You have a lot of light-skinned people who still don't want to admit to their privilege.
Okay, yes, ma'am. And Marcellus, what do you think about songs like that? Are they important?
I definitely think that they're important. I think that they are good starting points. But when you start dealing with something like colorism, we got to understand that colorism is not a few decades old. It's not even a few centuries old. We're talking about a practice and a mental illness that is as old as the Caucasian is. So I think that at best, songs like that can provide inspiration. They can provide hope, but it's nothing more than a starting point. And to get to the real solution, we have to understand the root cause of colorism.
Absolutely. And I want to thank everyone for watching. My sister Mimi says great conversation. I mean, great definitions. My brother says this convo is needed. Walaikum salam, Sister Michelle Beckwith. And my sister Naima says, I define it as a byproduct of white supremacy and the structure of light skin being treated superior due to its nearness to whiteness. Absolutely. Sister Candace, would you can you describe some of the effects that you have seen of colorism personally?
Well, again, growing up, and you saw it amongst, the children talking about your hair, you got nappy hair, and things like that, or you so black, that type of thing going on. So that has an effect on definitely the young children. But little things like that, and as I got older, it's still more so, oh, look at your hair, and your hair is this type, and things like that. But not recognizing that we're all the same and all beautiful in, the skin that we're in and in many different shades and states that we come in. We're all beautiful, but mainly just growing up, you saw that. And I think it still kind of lingers, even though once we become of age and become adults, we recognize that, hey, I'm beautiful. But that mentality still kind of lingers, and I think when we get older, we don't really recognize it as such.
Absolutely, Sister Ebony. What are some of the effects that you have seen personally?
I mean, I was called black ugly monkey, and it started with my mother. My mother is a very color-struck woman. She's lighter than me. On top of that, the flip side of colorism for me was Black men beginning to fetishize me as I got older. I realized I was attractive around my teens because of the reaction I got. And I went from being Choco Bliss, black and ugly, monkey to sexy chocolate or sexy black MFer. So it was a sexual thing. I can recall people saying things like, as a woman, you don't want to ever get too dark. It's okay for men. I can remember women swooning over Michael Jordan, Al Green, Marvin Gaye. Black women did not get that same reciprocity.
Right.
So, and I've had arguments about this with light-skinned people who talked about how fine they thought chocolate black men were. I said, but I'm talking about Black women. Black women catch hell when it comes to colorism from both men and women. I spent a large part of my life dodging the sun. So there are Black people who will deny this by saying things like, well, I've never had that happen to me. It doesn't have to happen to you directly. It doesn't have to happen to you directly for it to be a reality. And how dare you try to erase someone else's experience? We're not making this up. This is a real thing. And a song by Beyonce, like Brother Marcellus said, it's a start. But we've got to do a complete overhaul in the media as a whole. Do you all remember the Dove ad? The Dove ad where the woman went from dark to like clean and white. She got lighter and lighter the cleaner her skin got. And the black caricatures from the earlier 1900s, where they would have a black baby going in the water coming out white once it was clean. We're dealing with nigger mentality, which is the bastard child of white supremacy. So we're burning the candle at both ends. We have to figure out how to combat white supremacy, which is a world issue, because darker skinned people all across the globe are catching hell, pushed to the outskirts, mistreated, mishandled. This probably ain't gonna be changed in our lifetime or the next.
Okay, yes, ma'am. And we have to work on that. And thank you all for your transparency. Thank you all for watching. Sister Michelle Beckwith said, my mother was too color struck. I'm assuming that's what she was referring to. Mimi says, thank you all for sharing your experience with us and being so transparent. Naima said, I'm so sorry that you went through that, sis. Alicia says, this is true. Michelle Beckwith says, she said, my light-skinned daughter was beautiful, but my dark-skinned daughter had the brains. She believed light was beautiful and dark was smart. I wish you didn't have to go through that, Sister Michelle Beckwith. Sister Alicia says, amen, sis. Mimi says, way too many people deny the reality of colorism. Absolutely. And yes, they do, Sister Miriam, and teach Queen to Sister Ebony and Sister Candace's comments. Brother Marcellus, could you describe some of the effects that you have seen of colorism?
Oh yeah, most definitely. And I found it interesting that you started off with a song, because a lot of the colorism that is perpetuated in our community, it comes via rappers. I remember when Lil Wayne had a song where he said, beautiful black woman, I bet that look better red.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying? And, before I got the teachings, when I heard that, being ignorant and being a nigga at the time, I followed suit, because these are the people who have been entrusted to be our inspiration and our leaders. But when you get the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he starts telling you things like the darker you are, the closer you are to God, or black is beautiful, then you start to put what you thought you knew up against what you see as your current reality. But one thing I definitely wanted to touch on, what I started saying earlier, was how, a lot of times the reason why we can't properly find a solution to things is because when we analyze them, we misdiagnose the symptoms. And when you misdiagnose the symptoms, it's very, very hard for you to come up with an antidote. I think that a lot of our people, and this was my stuff at one point in time, a lot of our people seem to think that colorism started during slavery, and that colorism is a social invention of white people. And based off of the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, that is not true. As a matter of fact, colorism was an invention that took place about 600 to 700 years before white people even physically existed. Because if you remember, Yaqub had a law where he would not allow two dark-skinned people to cohabitate, to marry, and produce dark babies. So this is an illness that has been with the original man long before the white man was on our planet. And if we don't deal with it through transparency, then it'll be on our planet long after white folks are gone.
Absolutely, brother. And you teach it. And I thank you all for coming on and you all's great comments. I have some comments from the audience. Sister Alicia says, colorism is so real. The darker you are, the worse you are treated. Yes, ma'am. Sister Miriam says, yes, sir. So much colorism in hip hop. Sister Mariah says, growing up, I was a military brat. I had never heard of colorism. I was taught that we are all the same. When I was introduced to what it was, I was hurt. It made me feel guilty for being lighter. We don't want that to be the case. I realized so much after being introduced to the teachings. This Naima says, I can't turn on the radio without hearing about red bones, foreign light-skinned girls, etc. Hip-hop plays a huge part in keeping colorism alive. Absolutely, it does. I also wanted to ask this. When we all are victims of colorism, subconsciously or consciously, have we ever bought into colorism? Mr. Candace, have you ever bought into colorism?
Probably. I've never made fun of anybody, but I don't remember actually speaking up about it either. So I would say in that manner, yes. As sad as it was, that's probably more so how it happened for me. Of course, with my complexion, I didn't get a lot of the name calling. Was always other things because, among our people, we're going to find something.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
for me, it was my 4'10" height.
Yes, ma'am.
But, watching others grow up and, even amongst, family, I heard a sister mention color struck. That's the word that I remember growing up. And but now participating, that's probably how I did, just being silent about it. When I could have said, something like, oh, you girl, you're beautiful, or something like that, but just not saying anything was my participation in it.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, Sister Ebony, have you ever participated in colorism or bought into it?
Definitely.
Could you explain?
I tried to bleach myself with bleaching cream and Comet. It's crazy because I never thought there was anything wrong with me until other people said something. If my mother had given me a stronger foundation and not been a part of the problem, I could have probably stood stronger in the face of strangers. I remember men telling me things like I was a part of that 1%. And when I asked what that 1% was, they said that's the percentage of dark-skinned girls that actually look good. I've heard things like a friend of mine, she was told that she was too fine to be that brown. Men saying things like, I normally don't date dark-skinned girls. You're the first dark-skinned girl I dated. I took that because it was all I had, and it made me feel good. I accepted that I was a part of that 1%. When I really should have sent these dudes to the curb with the rest of the trash.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But it was like, what you gonna do? Then you won't have any dates. So I became a product of the environment.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So.
Okay, well, I have to follow up with that. First, I want to come back to your point because we want to talk about bleaching. But Sister Candace, you're from Florida and you experienced it. And many times people want to say it's something that's in the South. But Sister Ebony is from Detroit. And Sister Ebony, you're saying you experienced it in the North, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to be clear because some people think that it's a South versus a North type thing. And I'm like, it's just.
Well, you got to keep in mind, a lot of our people up here, for the most part, migrated from the South. They're from Alabama. They're from Georgia. They're from Mississippi. Louisiana. So they migrated up here and they brought that mentality with them.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, and you also said something about trying to bleach your skin. Is that something you saw on YouTube or like you saw that you just thought that if you tried it, it would work, or did you actually do research to try to bleach your skin?
Oh no, I was a kid. I stole some Natanola cream from Perry Drugstore. And slathered myself up. and got a beating in the morning for greasing up my sheets, leaving the oil spots all over my sheets. But nobody was willing to address the fact that I was trying to lighten myself.
Yes, ma'am.
I just, if I may say, I just came from a dumbass family.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay. And did you experience this did white people say anything to you in Detroit, or was this mainly black people?
White people thought I was beautiful.
That's been my experience. And then that's my experience. That's been my
white
experience.
Women, white men. I have been stopped in a mall. I never thought that I could wear red lipstick. I started wearing red lipstick. The first day, I went to the lady at the makeup counter, and I said, because of my complexion, I never thought that I could wear red lipstick. I always wanted to. She handed me a wipe, and she said, wipe your lips. She did a red lip on me that day. I have never had so many white women stop me in the mall and just tell me how gorgeous I was. I was blown away. Even now at 40-something years old, white men love me. And they love my natural hair. They prefer my natural hair over the straight hair. And you got black men filming black women with afros talking about them needing a perm. So it's wild. It's like, who wants to show solidarity with a bunch of men? And as soon as these men get mad at you, it's like they go from goddess to bitch in 0 to 60 seconds. You become a coon, you become a black bitch, you become ugly. They become Klansmen in blackface. What was all that other stuff you were talking? Black power. Black is beautiful.
Yes, man.
What happened to that?
Yes, man. Absolutely. Okay, well, and brother myself, I'm coming to you. I got the question. You guys got to get these comments. My sister Naima says, when I was in high school, it was men that I was close to who praised light-skinned girls and said they only dated girls who were red or in the academy. It made me question my looks until I was in college. Michelle Beckwith, I experienced that in the Midwest. One thing you couldn't be, I noticed, was you can't be dark-skinned with short hair because people swear you are crazy. Alicia says, so sad, but true. But Marcellus, what have you ever bought into colorism?
I'm gonna say I definitely bought into colorism, and I really got to thank Allah for the teachers, because like looking back, I was on the fast track to becoming a coon. Like, I'm not even gonna tell you no lie, bro. I was destined to be a coon because I've never seen, until I became a Muslim, I've never seen women get right. That's first of all. And being that all I've been around is black women, seeing women get mistreated because of, certain things, I already had a negative outlook on what male-female relationship is supposed to be. But being that when I would go to school and I could see how my teachers would single me out because, they thought I was threatening, well, really and truly, I was probably more of a class clown than I was a bad child. But because I was darker than most of my classmates, if not all of them, I always got seen as, the troublemaker, et cetera, et cetera. And so, as I said before, with song lyrics, it was a point in my life where I honestly felt like if a woman was not red and thick, then she had no value. And so when I got the teachings and I saw how foolish I was, it really, really made me like that much more thankful for these teachers, because think of how many of our people are out there in 2019 with this same mentality. And as the sister just said, I can definitely bear witness because I work at a restaurant that's on the intercoastal of Florida. The view is beautiful. Most of our guests are white. I can't tell you how many times young white women will stop me and say, "Oh, you're so handsome." I mean, I'm not interested in them at all. It's so, you know, so I ain't trying to get no pink toe or nothing like that. But it's so sad how our open enemy can simultaneously hate us, but at the same time recognize how naturally beautiful and handsome we are. But then when you come back to your own people, you catch a lot of hell, like the sister said before, how your hair is, how dark you are, and how defined your features are.
Absolutely. Okay, and thank you all for your transparency. When I was writing these questions, I had to ask these questions to myself before I asked them to you all. And when it said, "Have you ever bought into colorism?" I think I did. I think that there were women I knew were more beautiful or pretty or more my type, but I saw the reaction I would get with women who I didn't even like just by bringing them around my friends to be like, "Oh, y'all like her? Oh, why? Because she mixed with Mexican. She mixed with," you know what I'm saying? And it's like, how much of that do you actually play into making a choice for your woman? Do you choose who you would naturally think is beautiful, or do you choose based off of who more people will accept you and think that you have some kind of status or rank based off of the choice that you have? So I thank a lot for the teachings as well. So I didn't have to play into that for long. Sister Candace, are you there? Sister Candace is going through something.
Yes.
All right. Oh, Sister Candace, will today's youth, you're a mother, will today's youth face colorism?
I think they face it still today, because even though we have some consciousness now, we're still battling the same old mentality. And as long as we have elders or parents or that still have that mentality, then the children are going to suffer with it as well. So to a certain extent, yes.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Sister Ebony, do you think that today's youth will face colorism?
Like I said earlier, we are not going to see a change in this lifetime. We probably won't see it in the next lifetime. So they're absolutely going to go through it.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. And Brother Marcellus, okay, I'm coming to you. Let me read the role models. Okay. 1 second. I'll see a lot of comments. Sister Alicia says, "Sad but true." So Mariah said, "There's a dancehall singer named Spice. She has a song called Black Hypocrisy, and it's about colorism." And she says, "Black American women deal with it." Absolutely. I like the song, and I like Spice. I think she's beautiful as well. Sister Alicia says, "Sister Ebony is telling the truth. It's hard to hear, but true." Sister Mariah said, "Very true. When I went natural, she had black men telling me they prefer straighter, relaxed hair, and white men love it." Okay, this is the point. I'm coming to y'all. I want to just ask this question. Do you, when you see that happening, when we know that we are victims of colorism and white supremacy and things of that nature, when you see someone saying something ignorant, how do you deal with that without attacking the person for their ignorance? Sister Candace, if you will.
I think today more so, because we've been awakened, especially with the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we are better equipped and able to recognize, as well as, other consciousness and knowledge that we've come into. The way we combat that is just simply to tell someone that they're beautiful. You have to give knowledge of self and who they are a reflection of and where they come from. So I think that helps too. And I think that we are more receptive to that because of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Yes, ma'am.
You still have to battle, but I think we can accept it more today than we could yesterday, as regarding how beautiful we are.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, Marcellus, bro, I'm coming to you. Sister Ebony, if someone makes a colorist comment, is there a way for you to address the sickness of the person's colorist comment without necessarily attacking them?
It depends on how you come.
Okay.
If you say something, like some people, you can give them gentle nudges and you can offer correction from a place of love. There are people who seek to hurt your feelings, to disrespect you, and they know what they're doing. You don't have enough time to correct their ignorance because they're convinced of it. They're confident in their ignorance. And at that point, I'm going to cuss your ass out.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Because if you can't civilize yourself, I can help you with that.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
And you want to teach everybody, but you have to understand that not everyone is in a place to be taught. Everybody's not teachable. You know, you break into my house, I can't explain to you the side effects of white supremacy and poverty and this, that, and the other. I don't have that kind of time.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So someone who is blatantly looking to belittle me and berate me, you know, there are people who see that you have confidence and purposely try to snatch it from you.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
You're too dark to be that confident.
Yeah.
They want to take it down a notch. I'm going to touch your ass.
Yes, Mr. Ebony. And thank you. And so I'm coming to y'all's questions and comments. And thank you all for watching. I also want to say this podcast is brought to you by my sister Miriam's book, ABC I Love Me, on Amazon. My brother, Politically Oppressed, his business partner Jamal, for their street premiere of me video editing. And my second book, Cleopatra, it is on Amazon. Please get the book. All right, Brother Marcellus, for you, if someone says a colorist comment, is there a way for you to correct them without attacking them?
I think like Sister Ebony said, it really depends on how they come at you, because every action, you know, creates an equal and opposite reaction. But one thing I definitely want to touch on is that, you know, we're talking about colorism happening to us in the world. And, you know, amongst ignorant people, you have to expect ignorance. The colorism that I have an issue with is the colorism that presides in houses of worship. The colorism that I have an issue with is colorism in pro-Black organizations. Now, you and I have even talked, you know,